Okay, welcome to July 4th council meeting, and with that, we'll call the meeting to order. I have a motion to call the meeting to order. Second. All in favor? Carries. Okay, item number 2 on the agenda, the closure of the council meeting. And the items to be discussed will be labor and legal under section 90.1, 90.1C, 90.1E, 90.1F. G, K, and N. And with that, motion to...
I add a couple of things to there, or just a couple of comments. I think we need 90.1A as well. And that's the point that Randy wants to bring. So that needs to be added. I'm not sure why we have 90.1E. I think we can delete that one. I didn't see anything that required it. I'd like to add 90.1L. This is discussion of the municipal office and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, progress report for the purpose of preparing an annual report under section 98. So I think we have an annual report that's on the table, and we're going to discuss it in closed. So I think we need 91L. And then 92B, I would like to add as well. And this is about discussion that could be affected by in relation to other levels of government. That's 90.2B. And what I really wanted to have a talk about there was trails and trail closures. I'll just leave it at that for now. I think those of us who were in the EPC meeting and seen some of the correspondence will know what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other additions? Edits?
We're in the adoption now?
Yeah, we're in the reasons to close.
Reasons to close. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Okay, everyone's fine with those amendments?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of moving to close portion of our meeting?
Yes.
Second.
Opposed, carried. Okay. All right, motion to call the meeting to order.
Yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome back to the open portion of our meeting. I'll just open this up with we're privileged to be meeting and doing work on behalf of the residents of Lions Bay on the traditional and unceded territory of the Squamish and Musqueam nations. And with that, we'll call the meeting from July 4th to order at 7:05. There is nothing to report out from the closed as of yet. The meeting was adjourned, so we'll pick that up again at the end of the open portion. And we'll move right to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Okay, any amendments?
No.
Councilor Abbott, no amendments. Councilor Ryder, any amendments?
Were there parts of the item 10A2 we wanted to move into close, or we want to do that in the open?
Which one?
Which was
the
access roads.
The IT report?
Well, I think the thing you get to is to receive it.
To receive it?
So you're just going to receive it.
Yeah, receive it.
I think there's one discussion around that in step in place.
Okay.
But it's on another matter already in the place.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay.
Nothing further for me then.
Okay, Councilor Cunliffe, anything you'd like to change? Okay.
Okay.
Councilor Broughton.
10A3, I will update actually probably under action items, unfinished business. So I think I've informed that, but just that I would like to address a couple of concerns in 10A3 when we get there.
That's the stop sign?
Yeah, sorry, I'm aging.
Yeah.
And so we'll put that under unfinished business.
No, it'll come up in the action list.
Okay, we'll put that under unfinished business. I'll put that down here.
Wait, do you have something today, or do you want it to go on the list?
No, well, it's an update which will come from come through unfinished business, but it will inform 10A3.
Okay,
So
We'll discuss it later.
so we'll discuss it at 10A3. Yeah. Okay.
Nothing here.
Okay. All right. Okay, there was a number of items that were reported out of closed last meeting, and I'd like to, as mayor, reconsider the matters of resolutions that were reported out. So I understand that we can reconsider and debate those items and re-vote on them, and that's according to section 131. Okay, and the resolution that I would like.
Sorry, can I have a question on that?
Sure.
And can we ask maybe Deanna to respond? If we had a resolution in a closed meeting and then report it out, if we want to reconsider it, surely we have to go back to the closed meeting?
I did discuss that in the closed and said that this has been reported out. Deanna, we've got a motion that was reported out, and it's actually in the minutes here. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to invoke item section 131
Of what?
And
could you section 131
of the
of what?
community charter. And I'd like to bring that forward, and that section allows the mayor to reconsider and vote again on the matter
In 30 days.
within 30 days. So I would like to invoke section 131, and the resolution is be it resolved the council hereby.
We didn't get an answer to the question to Deanna. I think you're wrong. You cannot take a closed resolution and reconsider it in the open. You have to go back to the closed, reconsider it there, or agree the council wants to bring it in the open. You don't get to do that.
Deanna, help us out on this. We've got the resolution. I can read it, and it's in our minutes. And this is a resolution that we had discussed that should have been, this happened between 10:30 and midnight in the last meeting. There were about 5 resolutions that I think you had agreed that these should have been an open meeting, and to be transparent and open with our community, which we've all pledged.
A point of
I don't
order.
see a problem with
Could we
this.
stop with the speech making?
So-
Just hear Deanna's answer.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm a bit caught off guard, so I haven't had a chance to see which resolutions you're speaking of. So if they are resolutions that council properly decided should have been discussed, debated, and voted on in open, then I think it would be fine to reconsider them in an open meeting if they should have been in an open meeting in the first place. But I haven't had an opportunity to look back on what these resolutions were. I know there are probably ones that I had identified as ones that perhaps should have been in the open meeting, but I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, can I read it? It's right in our minutes, in the open minutes. So I'll just read through it and you can give us a call. It says, be it resolved, the council hereby directs for a period lasting through council summer recess and to be revisited thereafter. There are no inclusions within the village update from any members of council or other users of the village communication system to the residents by members of the council unless approved in advance by the council. So in other words, the mayor's message, which I've been asked about repeatedly at Canada Day, especially, residents want to know why.
Point of order again. Your speech
limited
making again. Let Deanna answer the question.
Councilor Reuter, you're out of order. Okay, put your hand up if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, I do think that's a matter that shouldn't have been dealt with in closed and should properly be dealt with in an open meeting. I would agree with Councillor Abbott that most closed meeting matters should, if they're reconsidered, should be reconsidered again in a closed meeting, but I don't feel it would make sense to do that in this case, since it's not a closed meeting matter.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just
Okay.
ask one further question on that?
Yes.
Deanna, you started that by saying if council considers it should be in the open. Surely we have to go back to close and agree to bring it to the open.
But my understanding, Councillor Abbott, is that council did do that when they voted to.
No, we did not.
So Deanna, this is the real crux of this is the mayor's message, which has been stifled. And the community deserves open and transparent communication. It's right here in the minutes in the open meeting. I'm just asking to re-debate this and re-vote it. And that's according to section 131, which I can read that if for the residents as well. This allows the mayor to reconsider an item that was voted on within 30 days. This item is basically a gag order on the mayor's order. Stop.
We agreed to discuss it.
So Deanna, any other comments?
I would just say that I feel that it's going to further complicate things procedurally and does not look good optically if you go back into a closed meeting. I don't think, and council may disagree with me, but I don't think there's any element of that resolution or the discussion surrounding it that meets any of the exceptions for a closed meeting under the community charter. So I do feel it's an open meeting topic.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to add that to the agenda under unfinished business.
Reconsidering.
And that's reconsidering that council directs that for a period lasting through the council summer recess and to be revisited thereafter, there are no inclusions within the village update from any member of council or other uses of the village communication system to residents by members of the council unless approved in advance. And that any communications from staff within the village update or otherwise as above be confined to brief operational updates, and that the approving jurisdiction and authority for the village update and other electronic communications to residents shall reside with the sole discretion and authority of the acting municipal coordinator in consultation with the contractor Campbell at an ad hoc basis as determined to be necessary by the acting municipal coordinator. The following motion was carried with Broughton abstaining. Okay, so we would like to bring that forward. That'll be in the unfinished business. Does anyone have an issue with that?
Yes, I do. I am against that.
Would that be in the resolution? I'm not clear why it would be in unfinished business. I believe it would be coming out of the minutes or
You're right.
Is it a reconsideration of a resolution?
That would be number 8, business arising from minutes. So, and that would be under section 131.
131.
And I can read that section if any councilors would like.
No,
We know what it says.
we know what it is.
Okay, good enough. Okay,
So I suppose we better have a vote on whether we're going to.
Sorry, Councilor Ryder, I'm not finished, Councilor Ryder. One moment. Okay, there's also a resolution that directs the authority of the approving jurisdiction of the agendas to be the sole purview of the acting municipal coordinator in consultation with the contractor Campbell on an ad hoc basis. I would like to re-debate that because generally the mayor / CEO has
Point
an
of order,
opportunity
please don't
to
make the case and the argument. Just put your motion forward and then we'll discuss whether it's going to happen or not.
Okay, under section 131, I would like to revisit this. Okay.
The second item.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Any other items in the agenda? No. All in favor?
Of adding those two items
With the
to
amendment,
agenda?
yes. All in favor with the amendment. Once more, sorry.
As amended.
As amended.
Removing the minutes as amended.
Yes.
For the agenda as amended.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get back to business in the village. Okay, we'll move right to public participation, and we have a speaker list. Councilor Broughton, if you'll help us with that. We'll go to the gallery first, then we'll go to the Zoom participants. Thank you.
We have Peter Dorsman, Craig Doherty, and Greg Rudy.
Okay, Peter Dorsman. There, go ahead. You're first up.
Mayor and Council, I want to address housing affordability. To be a major issue particularly see that all over the world, as we know, and the provincial government is really stepping up its efforts to put pressure on municipalities to deal with affordable housing and making more affordable housing options available. Luckily, in Lions Bay, there has been a plan developed on this, and particularly in school lands. The plan was developed under Mayor Burr a number of years ago, far enough to look at options. The government of the land, the title to the land specifically states that there is room to build housing for low-income people, for teachers, firefighters, potentially, and caregivers. So that has been developed, and to a point where at one point BC Housing made $100,000 grant available to further study this development to bring affordable housing within the boundaries of our village, while leaving the school itself and school field, the school facilities in touch with all the land around it. Mysteriously, the previous council has dropped this project, so it's dead. Nothing has happened since. But there is a lot of interest in it. I know this in the community, from the school district itself, because the school district wants to maintain some activity around the site, in particular, to bring up enrollment in the school. So you have to answer this petition to council with a question. So my question for council is: do we want to sort of dust off the file of developing affordable housing on the school lands by opening up the discussion with the school district again? I know the school district is quite still interested in this, and in particular, given sort of the interest from the provincial government to support these initiatives, I think there's a very good environment to pursue this initiative, and I welcome it. So I would like to hand it over to Mayor and Council to further investigate and continue these discussions that didn't continue in the past. But there is something to build on. So that's my.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's certainly lots to think about there. Okay, next speaker, please.
I came here on June the 6th under a delegation, which I'd taken the time to fill out. I filed it within time. I had 10 minutes to speak to it. And I know that people were anxious on that night to hear from Mr. Focuson, our emergency services person, breathe the fire down near the cliffs. So I just tabled my document in relation to a noise bylaw exemption. And I looked around the table and said, in the interest of time, does anybody have any questions or objections that I can address on my feet now? Now, this is not an interactive session now because I've had to come back. I've missed, by the time I found out that my noise bylaw exemption was only granted until today, I couldn't get on the agenda within time. So I'm going to retable what I tabled back on June the 6th. This exemption has been granted since 2017. There's been no major issues and big community and financial support for the store's survival and viability. It's one thing to be a for-profit venture, another thing is to be profitable. I can tell you it's quite the contrary down at 350 Centre Road. So we need all the help we can get. On June 15, 2021, the council granted a 2-year exemption because there's nothing to inhibit you around this table from doing so. And remember, I'm not seeking a bylaw amendment. I'm seeking an exemption, which holds my business accountable, that if I treat it as a right, not a privilege, it can be revoked. So it's better to have me under that leash than me coming and seeking an amendment of the bylaw, which is a whole lot more complicated. We're the only mixed-use commercial zone in the village. We shouldn't be held to a higher standard than amplified music in residential zones and streets. And unfortunately, on the last occasion, there was under the guise of a question after 10 o'clock at night, because I reviewed the videotape, a bit like Sports Centre. Someone suggested they supported such an application for the exemption, whilst at the same time they objected to it unless there was something thrown in for a for-profit venture that's not in opposition to my business, but also a for-profit venture all the same. So my question for council is, will I get an answer to my application for a noise bylaw exemption? Is anything required further to advance at this meeting? Because we're not talking about, this isn't the conceptual version of the Rubik's Cube, guys. It's just a noise bylaw exemption. So I'd really be nice so that I can start to book some artists, because they do fill up ahead of time. And I will point out that around this table, these two councillors, Cunliffe and Abbott, have previously supported this application in the past. So I appreciate the support very much, and thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Could we just ensure that it is on the agenda and that we're and that we're dealing with it this evening, because we did make it time sensitive that we did have the exemption until tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
And that we would speak further.
Any objections to adding it to the agenda?
So where's the material on the original ask? Would be back in the.
In the June 6th agenda. Presumably, yeah.
Any objections to adding it to the agenda?
I've got a copy. I'm more than happy to have it and passed around.
Sure.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that we committed to addressing it on the next agenda, I believe that we have no option but to do so.
Okay, any objection to adding it to the agenda? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next speaker, please. Candace.
Good evening, but I'm so disappointed. Because after 2.5 months that I came here and wasting my time and your time, nothing happened about the parking lot. In this regard, I'm here today to ask each one of you, please let me know what you want to do. If anyone has a problem or that shouldn't do this anything about the parking lot, please let me know. Maybe I will be convinced that nothing should be happening. This is the fifth that 18 years has a problem. We want to take it out. If you are not coming with the solution, I would like just offer me and my family to be one week in one of your house during the summer, and then you feel that you are not comfortable, someone beside you, because everybody starting to go to the beach and that cliff from my bedroom. Does anyone has problem to solve the problem of the parking lot? Please let me know who. It seems that nobody has a problem. They are convinced and they are in the same way. Therefore, for the starting problem that you actually wasn't here, this gentleman, he wasn't here, that I propose that just have a few signage, at least give us some relief. The signage is no RVs, no, and signage of the motorcycle. And also I would like to remind you that you are wasting money, because during the long weekend, after 4:30, we didn't have any bylaw officer. Just one shift, the young boy that is very nice, he was from the morning, and after 4, nobody. How you can control something without any controlling or controller? What you want to do? Please give me the answer. I know that you are, we select you, we elect you, we honor you, but by the way, all of us, we are the Lions Bay residents. And I need to know, and I deserve to know, what you want to do from tomorrow, because the point is, summer is gone. It seems that you have a patient and let him or her stay at home and no medication after a few months. Of course, that it will die. I need the answer, please.
Canvas, I know the parking is just untenable for you, and we're battling with that in many other areas of the village as well.
Yes.
And as a council, I think the underlying foundation is that really we've been unable to get to the serious issues of this village.
Right.
And such as parking, fire, infrastructure.
I know.
And this is something that us around the table needs to address. And whether it's in open or in closed, we need to find a way to work together. And I think I addressed some of that at Canada Day. We need to find a way that we can move forward so that we can get serious about the business of the village, because right now it's not getting done.
Why not? It's very simple. You know, I gave you the solution even though. I said that make a parking committee. They do everything and send it to you, and you can make a decision about it. It has been ignored. The second, please, 2 or 3 signage in front of the lower Kelvin Grove, that at least till you come up after the bureaucracy for solution, just let us have little bit less noise. We have a bylaw, noise bylaw, but what does it mean? All the time we have a noise. You can come to my house, stay over there, and you cannot sleep at night. Is it good? Give me the solution, please. I'm the resident of Lions Bay. I know that it must be 2 minutes, but after 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 10, how many times 2 minutes and 10 minutes, nothing happened. Please, with all respect, give me the answer. Are you agree that we have to do something about the parking lot, sir? I'm with you. Are you agree?
No, I'm not going to be interrogated by you here.
Why not?
Well, because that's not the appropriate forum, but I understand your concerns. I have noise as well. And of
that's
course,
good.
if I could finish here, that this is something that we need to address, obviously.
Yeah. Are you agree with the parking committee?
Well, of course we need a parking committee.
Thank you.
Yes.
You said.
I think we've all agreed we have to have a parking commission. It hasn't happened yet.
Wonderful.
So
I think
yeah, I get your frustration. And some of it already upon you, and the issues already there. But we can't sit around in this forum and give you an answer, because that's not, we have to make decisions as a council.
It's very simple. Parking company, for example, this gentleman has a problem for the noise, should be more additional that he's a council. He could participate in the parking committee because he knows, if he has a feeling that what happened. Yes, please.
Sorry.
If I could just speak.
Yes, please.
There is a great interest in establishing a parking committee, and the parking committee, a suggestion has been made that representatives on that parking committee represent the various different areas of the community. And we are striving to get to that. We have other issues that we're dealing with at the moment. We are anxious to get to that, but it's not helpful to do a standoff here at this point in time. Okay, we're telling you that we will address this with the parking committee.
How about the time?
All right, Candace, we've heard you and we thank you.
Are you going to put the signage?
We are looking into this now, and as I mentioned, we've got a number of things we need to address, and we'll be addressing this further this evening. And we thank you. And now we're going to move on to let.
And you're going to do something about it.
We're moving to work on this. We're talking on a regular basis with Metro, the fire, and so there's movement on this. Okay, so thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully you come up with a solution as soon as possible.
So I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I was speaking about the speeding on the highway. A simple solution I made at the time might be a cop with a yellow vest and a book of tickets, 1 hour Sunday evening down, 1 hour Friday morning, evening up. And I've come to understand that there is another possibility, and it's equipment that would measure speed over distance. I'm not sure how the ticket gets mailed out or how it works. So I'm just suggesting in the interim, we explore the possibility, council explore the possibility of getting a police officer for an hour on each of those occasions, handing out tickets. It sure slows me down when I see a yellow vest beside the road. So thanks for your consideration, and I'm looking forward to some kind of
Thank you.
Solution.
Any others in the gallery that yes, no, okay, we'll move to the Zoom. Sorry, was there anyone else? No. Randy, please, if you'll unmute Randy. We're moving to the gallery, the Zoom portion, and we'll have Randy.
Randy Byrne.
Randy Byrne, please unmute. Going. Gone. Okay. No other speakers?
Norma.
Oh, sorry, Norma.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi there, got you.
No. We cannot hear you.
yourself again, Norma.
Sorry, were you able to hear me now?
Hello? Oh.
Hey, Randy, we've got Norma on the line. You'll go after Norma if you'll just stand. Stand down. Thank you. Norma?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. This year, council has not followed the usual process after budget completion. The community charter requires an annual municipal report no later than June 30th, including an audited financial statement and public input. The village has a municipal accountant, a controller, a standing finance committee, and had a CFO until May 30th. I'm not sure if the ministry financial advisor is still contracted by the village. With all these financial people, why is it July with no information about an audited financial statement or annual report? Why has there been no communication about the missed deadlines? Residents ask questions that seem to drop into a hole of unaccountability. Council has determined not to respond to questions during meetings, and the answers are not scheduled. Councillor Reuter tries to craft email responses that reflect council as a whole, but disparate opinions hamper his ability to answer. Would council consider creating a public forum to consider the issues brought forward by residents in the gallery and on Zoom? Thank you.
Thank you. Randy, you're next.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. So I wanted to ask about a topic that's important that affects us all. Fire safety in our small village. In the midst of our daily routines, it's easy to overlook the potential dangers, but let's not forget that fire, if not handled with caution, can transform our peaceful haven into a nightmare. The importance of fire safety cannot be stressed enough. Fires have the power to ravage homes, destroy livelihoods, and most tragically, claim lives. The public doesn't always find out about every fire call we attend, like the call for a campfire feet away from the wildfire we just fought. First and foremost, awareness is key. Each and every one of us should be educated about fire safety practices and precautions. We need to familiarize ourselves with the potential fire hazards in our homes and public spaces. Simple negligence can lead to disastrous consequences. By being aware of these risks, we can take proactive measures to mitigate them. We need to foster a culture of preparedness within our community. And while establishing a community emergency response plan is essential and being worked on, let's not forget the importance of personal responsibility. Each one of us must take ownership of fire safety by regularly pruning our trees, particularly at roadways, which are meant to provide fire breaks. These are all part of our duty to ensure the safety of our community. It's not a topic we can afford to overlook. It's a collective responsibility that demands our attention and action. By increasing our awareness, investing in infrastructure, and fostering a culture of personal responsibility, we can ensure that our small village remains a safe haven for all. My ask is will the village commit to being more aggressive in cutting back the trees that are growing over the roads, particularly when there are spots that have been burned by hydro wires already and are ready to start a fire within our village, not at the outskirts.
Okay, Randy, thank you for that. And there has been an emergency planning meeting, and we are addressing many of those concerns that you brought up. So we'll leave that for council to discuss in more detail. But thank you.
Sorry, if I could clarify, the ask is not about emergency preparedness, but if the village is willing to support the cutting of the trees at the roadsides, which are currently being hampered.
I think that's all part and parcel. That's falls into the Fire Smart initiatives, and that's something that we're looking to address. So,
thank you.
Yeah, no further. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next portion of the meeting. Then there's no other speakers. Item number 7. Or there's no delegations, is there? No. Okay, item number 7, review and approval of the minutes. So I have a motion to approve the minutes. Second. Discussion. Any discussion? No. All in favor? Yes. Opposed? Carried. Okay. Business arising from the minutes. I brought up a couple items. So item under section 131, the item that was previously approved, be it resolved, the council hereby directs for a period lasting through council summer recess and to be revisited thereafter. There be no inclusions within the village update from any member of council or other uses of the village communication system to residents by members of the council unless approved in advance by council, and that any communications from staff within the village update or otherwise as above be confined to brief operational updates, and that the approving jurisdiction and authority for the village update other electronic communications to residents shall reside within the sole discretion authority of the acting municipal coordinator in conjunction with the contractor Campbell on an ad hoc basis as determined to be necessary by the acting municipal coordinator. We'll go through the speaker list. Councilor Reuter, that was your motion. You'll go first, please.
Yeah, I think it was a good motion. I'll point out that that it requires approval at the council table for anything from any member of council. So it seems to me to be inherently democratic. We've had several village updates now that have operational updates and volunteer events, occurrences that are meeting committee stuff. Seems to me it's appropriate that council weigh in on submissions to the village update from any member of council, and that no member of council is special or preferred or has any ranking over and above anybody else. So I think it was a good motion, and I continue to support it.
Okay, Councilor Brotman.
I'd like to actually make an amendment to that motion, because I don't think that limiting speech, limiting the provision of information, accurate information is inherently democratic. That voting to limit who is able to speak. So what I would like to do is address this amend this motion by removing the unless approved in advance by council, and replacing those words with except in areas of interest or areas of direct responsibilities. What I'm attempting to do there is to give each member of council access to the village update in areas that they are directly responsible. For example, Councillor Cunliffe and I perhaps would report out on something to do with the beach park, and Councillor Reuter or Councillor Abbott may report out on something to do with climate action, something to that effect, and that would just simply be a useful way of getting information to the community and of great interest to the community. I believe the final paragraph, I would leave the next paragraph, and that any communications from staff within the village update or otherwise as above be confined to brief operational updates. I think brief is the operative word there, but and whether they're operational, I think most of the things that the village is involved with are operational, so I'm not too concerned about that. I would strike, however, the final paragraph, because I don't believe that it is in fact legal to for council to delegate an authority which is currently rests with the CAO. That actually the delegation of CAO authority requires a bylaw, and in fact this is a motion, a resolution, and not a bylaw. So in fact, I believe that restricting and directing, giving authority to the acting municipal coordinators is not in fact legal or appropriate. So my suggestion is that we amend that motion or that resolution as I indicated, remove the final paragraph and replace the words unless approved in advance by council with except in areas of direct responsibility, which would relate and be inherently democratic to all individuals on council.
So that's a motion.
So that's a motion seeking a second.
Okay. Second, the amendment. Okay. Next on the speaker list, Councillor Cunliffe.
Well, in regards to that motion, I think that the intention behind it was to essentially revisit the village updates in a strategic session, because in a previous council, it was rotated throughout council, not just the mayor who solely spoke. It kind of defaulted to that near the end of the term, but looking at putting a different process in place. And frankly, I just don't think that we have the time right now to really put too much thought into that, considering we're going on hiatus in the very short term. So over the summer, I can't imagine that any member of council is going to be spending a lot of time providing detailed information weekly for the village update. That was my thought and rationale behind that.
Okay. Councillor Abbott.
I think it was a good motion. It was put in place for reasons which Jamie just explained. We're going to revisit and decide on how we want to communicate as a council through the village update. Currently, the village updates are written exclusively by the mayor. They do not represent the will of council. Quite clearly, there was a village update where the mayor went out and accused myself and Marcus of defeating democracy because we voted on it.
Sorry.
No, just
now
you're I'm telling you why I support
the motion.
I'm telling you why I support the motion. So for those reasons, until we come to have a more balanced village update, I think this is a very good motion. The suggestion that committee members or committees could speak to the village update annotations is a great way. Problem with that was the Climate Action Committee did it without any response to the committee. The article got changed completely and edited, and without even giving the committee the due respect of telling them it had been changed. So this is not, it's not a gagging the mayor. I don't know who started this term, Ken. It's about trying to get a more balanced view of council to be presented to the village. It's not what's happening at the moment. So that's why we put this motion in place for good reason. I'm not sure why this has been taken out there in your speeches on Saturday, described as censorship and your days in the Iron Curtain. It's not what it's about.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. Well, you've said a couple of interesting things there. I didn't realize that Councillor Reuter and you were paying attention to the mayor's message. It was factual, is factual, and if you go back and review, and I encourage all residents to go back and review the mayor's message, it's business, it's facts. Go in, take a look at that. This is pure censorship, is what's happened here. Pure censorship, and you've just confirmed that. You're upset that climate action, and this is what had nothing to do with the mayor's message, the climate action. It had nothing to do with the mayor's message. So if the mayor's message is exactly that. It's factual. It tells the community what's taking place. It addresses the business of the community. So, and I did address this in the Canada Day speech. I talked about we have freedoms of expression, freedom to choose our own path, freedom of speech that enable us to empower all of us as citizens, immigrants, and residents. And to participate in democracy, we need this freedom of speech.
You're going to rehear your speech?
And I'm addressing just as you did.
The motion.
I am speaking to the motion. Okay, let me finish. All right, it enables us to disagree. We're allowed to debate it, which we're doing now. But in the end, free speech is free speech. And I address that. You're right. I was behind the Iron Curtain in many countries. And I was proud to wear the Canadian flag. And to see that we're censoring the mayor under the guise of this resolution, very disappointing. I had a lot of people ask me what happened to the mayor's message. So, and this was proposed at about 11 o'clock at night in a closed meeting. So now we're discussing in open. Okay, we'll move back to Councillor Reuter. You're up.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to respond to some of those things you said there. I just reiterate that the village updates have been dominated by mayor's messages. I'm not even going to speak to whether those represent the view of council, except to say likely not, and then that it is not for to say that it's a censorship or a stifling of freedom of expression is frankly absurd to me. The decisions will get made collectively here at the table as to what goes out in the village update. We've committed to re-examining this process in the future, and this is a break. There can still be elements or communications from members of council, but they would be approved by us collectively. That is inherently democratic and consultative. And I'll reiterate again that I think it's a good motion. It treats all of us equally in terms of publication time and page time in the village update.
Councillor Broughton.
The village update in the last several months, I believe, has been very positive, has been very level, has been very even. I acknowledge that there were a number of reports that were driven, that were passionate. And I think considering the times that they were published, they were challenging. I believe that the Climate Action Committee should have been consulted if their work was altered. I believe it was abbreviated. I don't know if it was significantly changed.
No.
Okay, I didn't want
to.
You
wrong, Michael. You couldn't be.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So, but the fact is that I don't believe I support that occurred, and I would not support that occurring again. But I believe that it's important that we all have access, and that we have appropriate access and responsible access. And I've had a significant number of people asking what's happened with the village update. And with all due respect, the coliform counts are important, and the various reporting out of is factual information is important. But I do believe that the village benefited from a positive statement, particularly in the times that we've been working through. To have some positive statement each week, I think, was very helpful. And I don't feel restricting that is appropriate. And I certainly was very uncomfortable with a pre-written motion coming up at 11:30 in the evening in a closed session.
Okay, thanks for that.
So I support my amendment.
Okay. Councillor Conlon.
Again, back to the thought process behind this was we need to come up with a respectful way to communicate collectively, equally, and at this time, it's going to take some discussion to get there. I don't think that needs to be the focus right now on council. I think that is something that taking a hiatus and coming back to after we reconvene in the fall to open up the discussion. But I see being very problematic over the course of the summer, trying to coordinate different messages between different councillors and the mayor. It's just a timeout. It's by no means a gag order, and any sort of insinuation that it is, I'm offended by, because that was absolutely no intention. We had issues in the prior village update with something being submitted to the CAO and it being changed when it was published, not what was submitted, but what was published had been altered. So this is not unique to this council. This is something that has historical issues and needs some more thought. So it's just a timeout. So we can do it well. That's my thought behind it. And I am not opposed to continuing this until we can have some thoughtful discussion in the fall, when we take care of the much more important issues that are at the forefront, which it would be finding a CAO, then we wouldn't really be having to have all of these discussions. Many of these discussions will be summed up when we have an actual person in the seat to competently perform and fulfill the role.
Okay, Councillor Allen.
I once again agree with pretty much everything Jamie just said. I think we need to find a balanced way that the view of council comes out in the village update. And if there's disagreements and views, they can be in there as well. It's not what happens at the moment. It is purely the mayor's view, and it's often not the view of council. There's conflicting opinions. I think we've taken this hiatus, as Jamie called it, for good reason. We need to find a better way of doing this. And I think it's the resolution, the way it was written and voted on initially, looks perfect for what we're trying to do. So I see no need to change it or to re-vote and see it.
Okay, thank you for that. I disagree. This is pure censorship.
Just a point of order.
You're out of order.
Are we all going to speak a third time now, or is it just you?
Your point of order.
No, a point of order to you. Are you going to speak a third time?
Going around the table twice. We've had an amendment by Councillor Broughton. We've had an amendment by Councillor Broughton. I have not after the amendment. Okay, Councillor Broughton. We go around the table after the amendment. Is it okay? So we're coming back. I'm last on the list. I've got it right here.
No, you spoke first quite extensively.
No, I didn't.
Yep.
No. Money was put forward.
We've got important business.
All right.
I want to go on with it.
Move on. Yes, move on. Call the question.
All right. First of all, I'm going to make it clear. This is pure censorship. I'm happy with the
order.
You've already said that. I have
all the question.
It's my turn to speak.
No, you've spoken twice. You have spoken twice.
We went around, okay, after Councillor Bone.
You spoke first and then a second time, and now you're speaking a third time.
This is really quite embarrassing to the
It is.
table.
Deanna,
could we
can we defer to you? Sorry.
Through the mayor. So your procedure bylaw outlines that you each get 5 minutes to speak on a matter. And typically you don't speak on a matter twice. There's certain exceptions where you may speak on a matter twice. And if you would like to do that, then that requires the approval of all of council. Those are sort of pretty stringent rules of procedure. So it's up to council whether or not you want to follow that closely. But I do suggest that you follow the procedure bylaw and speak to a matter once, unless you need to speak again to clarify something that you said, or you have something to add, or with the approval of all of council.
So for a maximum of 5 minutes.
Yeah. So moving forward, councillors, are we happy to speak to an item once?
Yes.
Yeah, there's changes.
Unless it's necessary to change it.
No, she's suggesting once. We've always done it twice. Are we happy with speaking once? And then we can move to real business here and get business in the village done.
Let's call this question.
Agreed. Call the question.
Call the question.
Okay.
Okay, point of clarification. I've identified that I believe that a clause, one of the clauses in this item is not legal. That in fact, that it is not possible by resolution to override the role of the chief administrative officer. So I'm asking that the final paragraph be removed as it is not legal, that we're asking.
We're calling the question on your amendment.
Is that a question we can clarify with Deanna?
Deanna, do you want to clarify that before we call the question on Councillor Broughton's amendment?
Through the mayor to council. So I don't know if I have an answer for that, to be honest, because I'm not aware of whether or not you have a delegation of authority by law. The CAO doesn't necessarily have, they don't, so the village update, I don't know where that resides. I mean, I don't know if that's somewhere indicated in a policy or a bylaw that the authority of that resides with the CAO, and therefore delegating it to another staff person by resolution would be a violation of that bylaw, unless it's clearly stated somewhere else that the CAO has the sole authority with respect to the village update. That I can't comment on whether or not giving that authority by resolution to another staff person would be a violation of the legislation or any of your bylaws.
Okay.
With
that,
one question on the amendment.
Can I help?
Yeah.
Can I help with that? We have a policy, Deanna. The policy says that the CAO has the authority to edit if you consider something unfit. If the person writing does not agree for editing, it comes back to council. Council decide what goes in the village update. That's just to summarize what the policy says. We don't have a CAO, so we'll obviously have to use someone else that authority.
Fair.
Okay, we'll call a question with the amendment from Councillor Broughton. All those in favor? Opposed? Proposed. Okay, we'll go back to the original motion. We'll call a question. All those in favor? The original motion.
Of the original motion? Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'd like my opposed vote recorded.
As mine, please. Thank you. Okay, next item to be revisited is be it resolved the council hereby directs the authority of approving jurisdiction over agendas to be the sole purview of the acting municipal coordinator in consultation with the contractor Campbell on an ad hoc basis as determined necessary by the acting municipal coordinator. We have a motion.
Motion to strike this item because I believe that the procedures bylaw indicates that the corporate officer is responsible for the agenda. And I believe that we currently have Deanna Campbell as the acting corporate officer. So I believe that this motion in fact flips the responsibilities. Certainly the acting municipal coordinator is actively involved in the agenda, but that it would not be a situation where should she choose to consult with the corporate officer, but that the corporate officer in fact has the final say.
Okay,
so I suggest that we strike this motion.
What do you mean by strike this motion?
That
you wish to rescind it.
It should be rescinded. It's not in that. I don't believe it's illegal.
Strike means we're not talking.
Deanna, on this motion, Councillor Broughton has requested to rescind this. Do we go around the table on this once?
Mr. Mayor, and through the council, I just want to comment on agendas generally. So there's no process identified for agendas in the legislation. The legislation is silent on it. So typically your procedure bylaw will outline who's responsible for agendas, how items get added to an agenda. Procedure bylaw does say that it's the responsibility of the corporate officer to prepare the agenda. But in terms of getting items added to the agenda and actual approval of the agenda, the procedure bylaw is silent. The most common process in most municipalities, and I can't speak to smaller ones, is that staff have a deadline to submit items for the agenda. The corporate officer and the CAO review the agenda, and the CAO is typically the one that does the final approval. It's good to go. In some municipalities, council and mayor may have a bit of involvement. They may meet with the CAO and identify items that they want to see on the agenda, and the CAO gets that included on the agenda. So there's a bit of a void here in terms of what the process is. So Ultimately, I think the approval authority does reside with I would say the CAO. I would say the corporate officer is responsible for preparing the agenda. And preparing really means reviewing the agenda. It's usually administrative staff that would put the agenda together. But in terms of getting items on the agenda and having a say as to what does not or what does go on the agenda, that's typically for the CAO to manage. And it's not a matter of what they want to see. It's a matter of, okay, well, what's urgent right now? What's a priority for council? What does council need to approve? So there's a lot of moving pieces that go into preparing an agenda and getting it finalized.
Okay, thank you for that, Deanna. Okay, Councillor Cunliffe.
I essentially don't see how different this really is. If whether we go through the acting municipal coordinator first to provide it to Deanna.
There's no requirement for her to be provided it.
So
According to the motion,
It is being provided.
in fact, there is no provision for her to be provided according to the motion.
So why don't you let Councillor come in?
Sorry, let Councillor Cunliffe, you're up.
I just thought that this was essentially for efficiency in order to ensure that we got an agenda in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm rather ambivalent about this. I'm not sure why we're spending any time discussing it, to be quite frank.
Councillor Ryder.
Deanna, to your point, I mean, the corporate officer and CAO are usually one person here, and unless you're volunteering from afar, I see you smiling, to be completely responsible for the agenda. You're shaking your head. The person who effectively has been doing it thus far will continue to do it in consultation with you, which is, as I've seen from the emails, is what's occurring. You are the acting corporate officer, so I presume that is covered. I think given that we have a hole in our organization, the CAO, who would be the corporate officer, and you're fulfilling that role, and we thank you for your contributions to the agenda, but likely the bulk of the heavy lifting is done here at staff by the person named in the motion, the resolution. So I see no reason to revisit it or change that unless you still want to put your hand up and volunteer. Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, likewise, I won't take 5 minutes. I think we need to get on with other stuff. I don't see how this contradicts what we're doing other than try to give some clarity, even though we don't have a CAO. It just speaks to how the process is working, how it should work. I see no reason to revisit this.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor?
No.
Okay. As chair of the meetings, I would like to at least see the agenda before it's posted. I did not have a chance to see this agenda prior to being posted on Friday. So if we can add in,
a point of order, are you going to speak twice?
We're going to speak to this motion.
You're speaking twice.
I'm speaking the motion.
Yeah, but you're going in a second rotation. Are we going to keep doing this?
Did you not make the motion? I put forward
the motion.
Yes, and you're speaking for the second time then.
Okay,
we've agreed.
You know what?
We're going to move this forward.
Next time I will continue because I did not finish. All I did was put forward the section that I called section 131.
Yeah, you spoke extensively on that. So
Deanna, if I put forward section 131 so that we could revisit this, I did not speak at that time on the motion. Am I allowed to have a moment to speak here?
Yeah. I mean, you can take a moment to speak to it when you introduce it, or you can take the time to speak to it later after you've introduced it.
So I'm last on the list.
Well,
okay, my list says last.
You have spoken.
So let me finish.
All right, speak twice.
All right. No. Okay. So all I would ask is that the mayor, as the chair, has an opportunity to see the agenda before it's posted to the community, so that if there is any changes, because this posting happened within 5 minutes of it being sent out to the councillors, and the mayor, as chairperson for this meeting, had no input whatsoever into this agenda. So I would just like to say, whether it's a courtesy or whether we need to add it to this motion, that the chairperson has an opportunity to review this along with councillors. I'm fine with councillors reviewing it as well.
That sounds totally
Okay,
reasonable.
so I would amend that, say councillors and the chairperson review the agenda, and then it's posted.
So can I respond to this? We all have an opportunity.
So you're speaking again the second time.
Well,
Let's just acknowledge that.
as
Because
you are.
you gave me a very hard time here.
You spoke twice and now I'm taking a second.
I didn't speak twice. We clarified that. I
Okay,
introduced it. Go
If you
ahead.
just let me speak, we'll finish this up. We all have an opportunity to speak to what's on the agenda and to add things to the agenda. It's a democratic process. What you're asking for is a special purview that none of the rest of us have. We can all submit items to the agenda by Thursday at noon, and then they get included in the agenda.
I'm saying that we can both as councillors and mayor, but as a chairperson, I need to review that agenda before it comes out.
We have a corporate officer as per our procedures bylaw that reviews it.
You know what our corporate officer said, that in many cases, the CAO, which we don't have a CAO,
No, she did not
or
say
the
that.
mayor.
Is
With
it
all due respect.
necessary to make a motion around that, or could we just request, Marina, from the timing that you have, if you could circulate the agenda and give everybody 2 hours to respond? Is that a possibility? Then just as a courtesy,
Issues or concerns or whatever.
and we don't need to necessarily designate any sort of.
We've got a motion on this, so let's just amend the motion that if we want to allow the councillors and mayor to get that, I'm fine with that.
I would support that.
But hang on, how is this going to work though? So we get 2 hours to chime in, and then a bunch of us chime in and say, I'd like this added or this removed. We already have that opportunity for 2 weeks until Thursday at
I
noon.
don't think it's about adding, I think it's about one last set of eyes.
Well, we have, as per our procedures bylaw, which would normally be a corporate officer, and we have our acting corporate officer vetting and looking at the agenda, and that's as close to the normal procedure as we can get, given that we don't have a.
Where, in what world do you live in where the chair doesn't get a chance to review the agenda before it comes out?
You do have a chance
You
to
have the
resolution everybody else.
in a closed meeting. This was your resolution in a closed meeting at about 11:30.
Terrible stuff.
Okay,
Terrible stuff.
so you had already concocted these and put them into motion. All right.
Yeah.
And Deanna said these motions are far too verbose. Okay.
Really? Deanna, did you say that these motions are too verbose?
Point
No.
of,
No. Okay, thank you.
Deanna, did you say that these motions
okay,
are?
excuse me,
Yeah.
orders of the day. If I could point out that the motion as it currently exists is not what we are discussing. The fact is that the motion states that the acting municipal coordinator, in consultant with the contractor on an ad hoc basis as determined necessary by the acting municipal coordinator. We're speaking as if the corporate officer has some connection to this process. And I understand and value that this has been occurring, but that's not what this motion says. This motion precludes that, or at best doesn't require it.
Why don't we get on with getting a CAO in place and put this behind us?
Why don't we make things that do things wrong for the sense of expediency, which is what you suggested in the last meeting.
Expediency is not going back and revisiting everything voted on before. Let's just get on with it.
It's wrong.
No.
Mr. Mayor, if I.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If I just make comment, so I think that if you all start to have a role in reviewing the agenda, you're going to create greater inefficiencies. The idea is to have a dedicated staff person to be that final reviewer. There may be some municipalities where council or the mayor does do a review of the agenda before it gets published and it goes out. That's not been my experience. That's why there's a corporate officer and a CAO to do that final review. Of course, mayor and council have items added to the agenda, but typically that set of eyes should really be a staff person looking at the agenda and making sure that it's accurate and that's good to go out. So I would just be concerned that if everyone's starting to get involved in reviewing the agenda and potentially things might get changed, then you're just going to hold up the agenda process, and it's already pretty late that the agenda gets sent out to council and the public. And Randy, I think you might have had some comments.
Well, yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor, if I could speak for just 1 second.
Yes.
Here. The process that was followed last week was somewhat different than what you have in the past, and I think we've both Deanna and I have talked to the staff person about it, and what they're trying to do is set up a process so there's advance notice to people that by Tuesday you have to, if you want something on the agenda, you have to have it submitted, both staff and council, by Tuesday. So that it can be, sorry, can I just finish one, please? So that it can be vetted by the staff, and then the agenda can go out after that as a draft. And if council, if there's something missing, like an item that you wanted to have input on, you can advise the clerk about that. And I think we're just in a bit of a learning phase here, that we have to have some flexibility here in terms of making it better, because I think it is correct. And I think your citizens have pointed out that this agenda needs to be out sooner rather than later. So we finally got it out on a Friday. Yes, there were some hiccups along the way, but I think we're moving in the right direction. And I think you just have to set up some parameters as to the deadlines for staff and council to have input, and then a review of that to make sure nothing is missing. But there shouldn't be anything substantive, legally substantive, that you're wanting to change. Nobody has a veto power on this thing. So if that helps, I hope it does, because this is pretty standard operational procedures everywhere else.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah, yes. All in favor?
Of what now?
The amended motion as put forward by Councillor Brown.
Which was to rescind. You didn't mean anything.
No, I'm sorry. I suggested that we you brought this forward under section 131 of the community charter, and we are revisiting it, and I'm suggesting that we not pass it. And my amendment would be to remove the
offending last
on the ad hoc basis as determined by the acting municipal coordinator. Remove the last sentence. On an ad hoc basis as determined necessary by the acting community municipal coordinator. So the process would be the same. It's just the fact that contractor Campbell would of necessity be involved.
Okay. So
I waive that motion, that amendment.
All right. All those in favor with the amendment?
Need a second.
Seconded. I'll second. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Back to the original motion. All those in favor?
Which was what now? Okay. The original motion.
Original motion
was to revote on the resolution.
You want to revote on the same resolution?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call it.
Call it.
Okay, and that is council hereby directs authority of approving jurisdiction over the agendas to be within the purview of the acting municipal coordinator in consultation with the contractor Campbell on an ad hoc basis as is determined necessary by the acting municipal coordinator. All those in favor?
To be clear, you're asking for us to vote on that resolution. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, all in favor.
I oppose.
Motion carried.
Contribution.
Any
contradiction of the procedures file. Okay, thank you, Nate. For the day.
Next section 9, unfinished business, and we'll go to 260.
I had one that wasn't on the unfinished business, which it should have been. Matters arising. On the unfinished business list, you have one thing that refers to, I guess it should refer to renewable diesel. And in the way it's written says the council directs public works managers to update identified reports with recent information and report back to council. It means nothing because there's no context. And please make sure that that's stood. That is about the renewable diesel request for further research. It's the one.
Sorry, Councillor Allen, are you striking something?
No, I'm not striking. I'm asking this. This seemed to have got added to the unfinished business list. Right? But
which item number is that?
Yeah, we go back. Item number 287.
287.
287. But only part of the resolution got added to 287, and it doesn't make any sense the way it's written. So just add renewable diesel request in front of it or put the whole resolution.
Okay, so
Okay, that's,
yeah.
That's our public works manager, Carl.
Yeah.
If we add that renewable diesel.
Then you know what report.
I know it's Scott, but nobody likes this. Yeah,
Okay.
we all know now.
All right.
Okay, the other one that I want to bring up in unfinished business, Ian McLaughlin, last time Steering Council raised a concern about the property tax notice that went out. I think all of us were a little confused at first, viewing the headlights. I admitted that I hadn't read it, that she was referring to. I subsequently have, I'm sure others have. And I think she makes a very valid point. For us to go out with a notice to residents that say your property taxes went up because your house value went up it's just so far off how you actually, how the mill rate works and how we actually, what we tax for, that I think it should be corrected. That statement is wrong. And how we go about it, village updates, or at least record here, that statement is inaccurate and shouldn't have gone out the way it did.
Okay. Do we want to, sorry.
Move that we do a correction in the village update.
Before we do that, why don't we get Mr. Cherkoff to comment on it? Because I did ask you to consult with our provincial advisor and clarify this situation so that we can either post or you can report to us today. So can we take a moment to hear from Mr. Cherkoff and then we can comment? We'll add this on to business. We'll address it right now. Is that
Sure.
Joe, if you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to take a chance to thank the public participation portion of the meetings. Right on point. It was inaccurate. And so kind of did a revisit to the wording. The intention in there was to kind of, very brief sentence highlight the impact of property assessments. But the way it was phrased was not correct. So I've spoken with our provincial advisor, the CFO for the Municipality Greater Region of Thompson Club, and ran through some revised wording, which will be published in the village update, which gives a little more context. So in the end, what I was trying to address was that so we do approve our provincial tax or municipal tax rates, and there's another portion that we get from the province. They determine the mill rates for police, hospital, and what have you, and those are all basically applied directly against assessed values on the road. So that didn't add enough context to that. So I created some new wording that is a little more succinct and provides context and doesn't get put on housing assessment. I ran it through our provincial advisor and things that the wording.
Joe, is there any way that you can distribute that to us, to the council, so that we can have a look at that before you post that?
Yeah.
Do you have it right now, like what that correction would look like?
Sure. Yeah, I can read it out to you if you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're essentially correcting the piece where it implied that our tax increase is due to assessment, a rise in assessment. That's what we're correcting.
Yes, correct. So the question I posed to our advisor was corrected blurb that we can update. With the council voted to approve a 6% usable tax increase in the 2020 budget for operational capital expenditures, together with tax increases collected on behalf of other governmental agencies. Total taxes increased by $263,000. The inflation rate at December 31st, 2022 was 6%.
Yeah. Okay. Just send us an email and Councillor Brown.
Could I move that be placed in the village update and to assist?
Yeah. Maybe with a preamble that this is a correction and clarification.
Drive people to raise that and then I would say that it was brought to our attention by a member of our village.
Individual one and then the correction.
Yeah.
And could you also use that as an opportunity to remind people that their taxes are due next Friday?
Double down.
Double down. Get a 2 for 1.
Okay. Second on that. All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Okay.
I note that it's unanimous.
Okay, next item 265, follow up on the ministry regarding vacancy tax and report back to Councillor Reuter.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with our local MLA, Jordan Sturdy yesterday. His recommendation was that we put some energy into passing a fact-based and reasoned and principled resolution of council, which would then be conveyed to the Minister of Finance, that we be excluded from the SVT. It would take some work to put this together. And there are some arguments in favor of this. As I mentioned before, the speculation and vacancy tax is primarily aimed at dense urban communities where there's a shortage of housing. We don't have that. We are no longer an urban community. We're a rural community. I think it could be fairly argued that we don't have a housing shortage, but an affordability shortage. There's also the arguments that we could offer, and I'm just giving a brief synopsis. This would have to be worked into a policy piece that we suffer by now being arbitrarily included in the SVT, a financial loss, that our homes become less valuable as compared to surrounding communities. So that goes as to financial losses. If you compare us to Britannia or Furry Creek, for a potential investor, those houses are not prone to this tax and are therefore more attractive potentially. Ironically, of course, there is a lot of development ongoing and more to come in Britannia and Furry Creek. And someone might speculate that there will be some real estate speculation there, which would make them perhaps even better candidates for the SVT. Not that I'm arguing they should be included, but by comparison with us, there seems to be a lack of equity there. I think the other thing that I discussed with Jordan is that we've discussed this before, is that there seems to be a deficit of information about what this tax is and how it will apply to us. There was some discussion at the last council about how you qualify to make your home your primary residence to be exempt from the tax. And the information I got back from which I shared with council, that the rubric is that you need to spend more time in your residence than in any other residence. So it's a little different from other residency requirements, say under capital gains or your primary residence under your tax scheme. So I don't know how many people are aware of that. I think what we need to do is have a village update piece, perhaps an ongoing series of pieces that educate people about what's coming, and also seek some input to discover how many people may be affected by this. We've heard from several residents who've written in very passionately multiple times about how this will affect them. For example, people who spend a portion of the year in another residence or are snowbirds or in another country and would therefore be unfairly impacted by this. I'm suspecting there are likely more and that they're just not aware of it yet because there's been so much opacity about the process. So I would recommend that we have a series of pieces that go out in the village update, letting people know that this is coming, giving them some facts and seeking input from them as to whether they may be affected. And then at the same time, work to get together a reasoned, principled argument and get a resolution of council that we wish to be exempt from the speculation and vacancy tax. And there are many good reasons to make that argument, and that we then communicate that to the Minister of Finance as the first step. So that's my brief synopsis on what's going on there. So any input from the rest of council would be welcome.
Okay, any questions or suggestions?
I think information, education is everything. So I totally support that.
Any information you can share with us would be fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to put together a reasoned piece and an argument, but I think where we need to start is getting the news out and explaining what this is. I know there's been a piece. that's come out already, and asking for input from residents as to whether they're going to be affected. It's not the best time of year, but we probably need to have an ongoing series of pieces that seek input from residents to start.
Okay. I think it could look like a heads up now and then more accurate, more intense information in September.
Right, and on an ongoing basis. Yeah, yeah. It's not sexy. This kind of stuff never is, but
it matters to people who have that impact.
It's huge. Yeah,
it's huge.
Like capital gains, not sexy, but it's a big deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds like a good plan. I can support that. I mean, obviously, the obvious thing is to get that input now in the summer, because we have some who might for snowbirds.
Yeah.
Who'll be gone, but some to we have to jump on fairly fast.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's still people using their Brunswick homes as summer homes.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So
good. Should we ask staff to put a fact piece together and ask? I mean, I don't know who's going to do it. We had a piece come out previously, I think, a couple of months ago with some brief information.
Carl, you got room in your plate, or?
No, we can certainly put something together. That's not a problem. This is a provincial measure, and so we would only be doing it as sort of community service, so that heads up. In terms of people who would be affected, don't know. I mean, there's two aspects to it. If you're going to capitulate and say there's no way we're not going to be impacted by this tax, then we need to, presumably, the council would want to start preparing residents, the homeowners for it. If there's some opportunity to push back, in the grounds that you mentioned, then council needs to maybe do those in concert. But in terms of communication, it's pretty easy.
Okay, Councilor Ryder, maybe you can speak with staff.
Sure.
Okay. All right, item 283, and this is the emergency planning committee meeting scheduled. That's complete. We have our meeting. Lots of great ideas came out of that. I think some pass. Item 284, contact local member of the Parliament, Legislative Assembly, Councilor
to that. I spoke to our MP on Canada Day. I had contacted his office previously and then realized he would be here. So I asked if it would possibly be possible to get a few minutes with him, which was terrific. So he actually saw the concern with the stop signs on the railroad tracks. He was very supportive of the concept of the village having control of the roadways and knowing the requirements for safety for our citizens, and asked me to send an email to him, which I did, and I'm expecting a response in the next day or so as to who I can contact at CN. And also I was going to do this as two steps. To talk first to our MP and then follow up with Jordan Sturdy, because it's less directly less involved. I certainly would like his support on this matter. Because of the follow-up that I've done, I was going to ask that section 10A3, which is requesting permission to proceed with the stop sign installations and so on, that be continued to be deferred. Obviously, there's we need some time to get the impact, to get the political impact here, and I don't understand any urgency to proceed with this particular instance during the summer. In particular, it will put our residents in harm's way. So I don't. Well, I guess we can deal.
We're going to discuss it later
as well at 10A3.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. 285, apply for the disaster mitigation and adaptation fund. Otherwise, report back to council. We have staff. Any comments you'd like to make on that, Carl?
July 10th.
Okay.
What's the deadline again?
July 26th. Supposed to start.
Okay. In the beginning next week.
I've got some residents helping. We'll put stuff together.
That's great.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need anything from the CAC?
Yes, but I don't know what.
You know, with content. Okay.
All right, we'll reach out to them if you can. A little assistance there.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 286, Fire Smart representative in conjunction with fire chief be contacted to provide representation measures to mitigate fire risks. Council to appoint a representative. This is ongoing. We had this in our last meeting with the emergency preparedness. Any comments from councilors?
We probably don't have time tonight to talk about all the concerns and risks and things people raise in the EPC.
Yeah,
I don't think we have any time for that. We have to do something, and as you know, I asked for one item of that in the close. So I think for now, let's leave it where it is and keep the focus on and see what we can do.
All right. I think the just the overriding thought was reach out to Fire Smart representatives and in conjunction with our fire chief and our emergency preparedness team. So definitely we have some knowledgeable residents, some in our gallery tonight. So ideally we can pull on some of that knowledge within the village. Councilor Brown.
I think this is obviously a natural for the village update, raising the concern. I know that the fire department has brought in these gutter sprinklers, and that they were promoting them on Canada Day, and I think we should get behind them in terms of the awareness that they're creating with Fire Smart, and I think they're working closely with our emergency preparedness people and so on. So it's a multifaceted issue, clearly, with water and everything. So
before we start promoting those sprinklers, that needs to come back for a further discussion.
Okay.
Probably at the EPC around the consumption. And there was, even on the previous council, there was two sets of numbers crunched that didn't quite agree. But be careful that we don't promote people start doing that now. I know one person who jumped the gun and bought them, but haven't been able to put them up yet because we first need to make sure we've got water to operate those things.
Yeah. Okay. Just for the residents, it is being looked at in detail, especially by our fire chief and the emergency prepared representative Phil Fulkerson. So, and there's outreach to the metro as well as the province. So, and everything's on the table. Looking at the trailheads to the on the mountainside, but also towards Calvin Grove. So, okay. Anything further? Any councilors like that? Okay. All right, we'll move to item number 287. Update identified reports with recent information. Report back to council. Carl, let's set your name on it.
Yeah, well, this is the renewable diesel project. It's not my highest priority. I'm aware of it. I'm looking for the regional business model to update this model. Something we want to do in good time. I don't have a deadline. I don't have an estimate delivery time.
Okay, so it's ongoing. Okay, minutes to recent committee of the whole meeting be provided Councilor Jamie Cunliffe and Marina. I believe that is you, and it says ongoing. Any update or?
I just have to get them.
I can speak to that. I sent them to Jamie, and so I think that we're going to reconvene and look at this during our strategic planning session, and then revisit the committee appointments at that time.
Yeah. So you could strike that because I'm.
Yeah, so I think that one's done. It's done. Yeah.
That action's done, but we need to keep on our list here that we are going to have a meeting to discuss that.
Yes.
We need to plan on a committee of all meeting, and let's hope it doesn't drag on for too long because summer's coming, so it's going to be awkward to arrange. Parking committee and all the other things people are wondering when we get out and get on to doing something about. Start with revisiting that report.
Any thoughts on when we convene? Council's availability?
Next week. Before people start leaving.
Yeah, I'm already gone.
So this would address the parking committee specifically as one of those.
It would be a discussion that would cover all committees.
Highway committee, noise.
The same list we did last time, we did that.
Yeah.
So they're all on the list.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Reuter, looks like your schedule next week's not open.
No, were we also going to do this as part of a strategic planning session or not?
I think the strategic planning was going to be pushed off until Randy is looking in fall.
Sure,
So,
sure, yeah.
I think we should separate.
we need to get these committees going.
Needs to come sooner rather than later, yeah. Okay. Are you going for the summer then?
For about 3 weeks, so but I can participate remotely in it. Maybe we should give Jamie a chance to look at the been a lot going on here at what was decided in, and then we can get together at a time where we're going to revisit the committee appointments.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be ongoing then. Okay, next item, we've got 10A, the stop signs, and we've got noise bylaw. Why don't we, the stop signs are also down at 10.3. 10.3. Why don't we address the noise bylaw? And that was brought forward. So, any comments on that? And if Craig is looking for some clarity so that he can plan events and bring in some entertainment and things like that. So, Councilor,
yeah, I believe there were two. Could I just do a little quick synopsis for mine so I can hear myself say what I think we're trying to do here. He came in and asked for an acceptance of what's it called? Exclusion from the bylaw for the rest of our council term. And my sense was the council wasn't overly comfortable with giving him a 4-year commitment. But I think my sense is that we're comfortable with giving him a summer commitment. But I may be wrong. Perhaps we're more interested, we're comfortable with the 4-year commitment. He has done an ask for a 4-year commitment. So I think what we could do is if we had a motion to grant the request that he has made, and then we can discuss that motion. So I would be prepared to move that.
Can we make a suggestion? Do we go down the table and everyone have a word and then we can draft the
well, why don't we make a motion just to, and then we can speak to the motion.
We're more likely to get a motion.
Helpful to get consensus.
Yeah, we'll get everyone's opinion. More likely to draft a motion we can agree to rather than starting one amendment to another one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, consensus is the highest form.
Councilor Conlon.
Decision making.
I would be comfortable doing it annually. It's the same when we offer community grants. Everyone needs to come back and discuss what their plan is with village money. So it seems kind of on par with same sort of thing. So I don't think it's too onerous to come back in the spring annually. And then we do have a safeguard in case there's something that there's a change, there's some factors that have changed over from one year to the next, instead of going back and rescinding something.
Okay. Councilor Allen.
Yeah, I'd go annually, what I've done before. It gives residents an opportunity to raise their hand if they do have an objection or concern about it. So yeah, I think we should not make it too much of a blanket proposal. Annually is good. I've been to the events, I'm a supporter, so probably will do it. I'm sure we'll do it again, but I don't think it's too much to ask to just come back every year. And it gives a chance to discuss are there any people concerned about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Reuter.
Yeah, I mean, I think Craig referred to somebody who had spoken up on this topic. I mean, I support the doing it by the season as you're all mentioning. I'm wondering, given that this isn't occurring in the village hall, which has a little bit of separation from other residential areas, but this is in a dense populated residential area. I mean, it's a commercial area, but it is close to other residential areas and fairly dense at that. Whether we should be considering or reconsidering the 9 p.m. figure, whether that might be a little bit too late for some residents there.
I'm gonna go for looking at over the summer. The sun's not even down.
Okay.
So I don't think 9 p.m. is late.
And we do limit it to weekends, correct?
I believe.
Doesn't have that in here. Oh, on weekends and holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion.
So moved.
Okay, a second.
To be on an annual basis.
Annual basis.
Question?
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, carried. Okay. All right, we'll move to item 10A, account payable listing, page 16. Recommendation is that the report for accounts payable check listing be received for information purposes. You have a motion.
So move.
Second.
No, I'll second.
Any comments, questions, what we call a question?
Yeah, I have some comments and maybe a suggestion. And Joe's here. We can do this. Two things. I sent an email and I asked, can you still get the description column?
Yeah.
Can we get the description column, because just who got paid to doesn't help us. We want to be able to sort by what it was about.
May I ask a question? Would you like a threshold, a dollar value threshold? Because there's $500, $200 here. Is there a certain amount?
That's fine. Every cent doesn't make any difference. When we get the description column on, it's great. We used to get it as an Excel spreadsheet, which saves me doing the effort of turning it into one. And then you can just sort and you can filter out everything below 10 grand if you like. It's pretty easy to do, and we can go through it really quickly.
Sure.
So if we can get that, something we bring it back to the next meeting, because otherwise to go through line by line like that, your question.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I totally understand.
The other observation I had was there seemed to be $45,000. I'm assuming they're duplications of voided checks. And then if you go through it, you can see lots of the numbers are the same to the same person. And right at the bottom of the sheet, it says void $45,000.
I can look into that for you.
I don't know if I'm reading it right. I'm guessing what it means.
And there's 30 voids.
Yeah.
Well, there.
And then if you go through, you suddenly start to see duplication. So we can bring that back to the next meeting of this, that explanation as well.
Oh, I see.
And we can look at it then, be easier for us to process it.
Oh yeah, the void, yeah.
So Joe, my take on that was there are a couple of voided items, but they come to what, maybe $3,000-4,000, but at the bottom there's $45,000 of voids mentioned, so they should probably be listed as itemized.
Yeah, and
right.
so if I provide that in Excel, it can have that like sorted by dollar values. It's easy to see the high dollar items, and then the void checks would be itemized as well. And then for sure that would be a description of why you're investing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a general description of
each item. General description of each item.
Yeah.
Every single item?
It's on the spreadsheet already. It's on the previous reports. You just seen in the column.
I did look into the Excel. I didn't get any info, so I'm not quite sure.
Okay, well, on the previous reports, I don't know how it comes out of your system. On the previous reports, there's another column right next to who got paid to, what it got paid for, or whether it's gas or boiler pickup truck or new bowler hat. I don't know. Okay. And that helps, or contract invoice or whatever it is.
Right.
The column is just hidden on there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work with our staff to get the same information you have.
I don't think you need to do anything. I'm sure it's all in the system.
Should be there, right? Could I just ask a couple of quick questions? One is the election, Mark Brown, Marlene McGonigal, and I can't remember the other woman's name, but roughly what was the cost of the by-election?
$22,000.
About $22,000. Okay. Raincoast Ventures are doing our agenda or our minutes, I should say. And any sense of how the monthly cost for that?
So for a meeting like this, so they're online for between 3 to 5 hours, depending on what it takes. They're
probably at least 5 hours.
Yeah, it's been over $1,000 a meeting.
So it's over $1,000 a meeting. Okay. Yeah, I know that our municipal advisor has asked about ultimately staff rolling into that. So
So there much staff time in the by-election?
Staff time, yeah, Marina putting a lot of time meeting with our election officers. We had our accountant working with them to file reports. I think it was the most onerous time was on municipal coordinator shoulders. And then being on site for the election, setting up the election, Tuesday like 10 hours a day. It's quite a lot.
Is that reflected in the 22,000?
Oh, our time is paid by the municipality. The 20,000 is just always paid out to
right.
The official vote.
So in effect, the election costs were 22,000 plus the considerable staff time.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of how much that would be in aggregate?
I'd have to do my time sheet analysis, but our time
right.
With our activity report. So I could think that for you.
Right. So I think it'd be fair to point out that the election costs close to what one of the contractors in the beginning supposed would cost around $30,000.
30,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
That would be good to know what that number is.
Have a good idea. I think I should know this, but what is Marcon? MARCON?
Marcon? Oh,
I saw that the elastomeric pads for the fridge.
It's what?
The elastomeric pads for the 3
Oh, right. Yeah, I had seen it. I just didn't remember where it was. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
You have to get a better report, Michael, might answer your questions. But let me just wait for that.
Yeah. Well, it's helpful. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so we don't require a motion to receive that here.
Sure.
Okay, motion to receive.
Well,
Second, all in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed, carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Item number 10A2, email user access rationalization report. And that is the recommendation the council received this report. And Carl, I believe you were involved in that. Any comments?
Well, the report is in front of you. If we have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I noted that you made a comment about going out for an RFP at some point in time, perhaps. Is that when would there be a reasonable time to do that?
Well, sometime this year. Yeah, we do spend a lot of money. Not only that, the turnaround time on requests is incredibly high, long. I'm even considering whether the recommendation might be to provide the capacity resource in-house through training or a part-time employee or typically I've done this myself. Running.
You did this in your spare time.
The problem is I have no spare time. So yeah, I would normally take this on, but I know I won't be able to respond to those requests.
So it can only get so stretched. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when things settle down, I might indeed be able to take it on. That's probably about the same time that we would be considering going out for RFP. So timing might be good. As I say, in here, Sea to Sky is technically adept. They do know what they're talking about. I had a very good meeting with them a couple of weeks ago. Several things came out of it that we do need to change on our IT system. The primary one of which is to move from a hardware-based file server into the cloud using SharePoint access to Microsoft OneDrive, which SharePoint has on the computers. It'll help speed, security, searchability, finding information. Before we get there, we have to do all kinds of things with I find as I'm delving through the most convoluted file structure I've ever seen, I find 6 and 7 copies of the same files, just saved there for safety, because somebody didn't know where else to put it. So that all needs to be rationalized. All things considered, I'm comfortable that our files and emails are secure. As council knows and asked me to remedy, we had a bit of loops in some cases with emails that groups were getting groups, and so essentially the email was exposed to more functional roles than it needed to be. That's been somewhat rationalized. There's a few things that need to be fixed. For example, Marina wasn't getting something, I don't remember which. Every functional role has to have a backup in case that person's off, so that the email doesn't go into hyperspace. But I'm somewhat confident that we're fine for now. We perhaps would not find too many emails were going nowhere, and too many emails were going everywhere. But that's been mostly addressed now.
Yes.
Is there a server offsite?
Everything is backed up, yes. There is supposedly some kind of audit trail. When I asked to see it, there's a little bit of staring at the ceiling, so I don't exactly know where it stands. I will say that the one shortcoming Sky has, and I'm not telling saying in public anything that I haven't told them themselves, is that their systems are set up for their convenience and not ours.
Also,
essentially, you have to fall into what they determine is the priority for a ticket, and it's got nothing to do with our business case or business need or urgency. I'm considered a difficult customer, apparently, according to the customer experience manager.
I could have told him that. I could have told them that. You're calling
I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
But it would likely be different with any other provider, right? I mean, they will set up their parameters.
I hope it will be.
Yeah, you can keep over.
Yeah. That's why we may want to consider bringing it to us. We can turn requests around in minutes rather than days to weeks.
So you'll be taking that on?
That'll be for another discussion. I think.
Anyway,
I think we've all been through conferences have gone in-house, then planted it back out, this can affect this.
So, I mean, I've been looking through the past. We were in-house. I can see where we were buying Microsoft licenses, and then they got out of hand. And so this is, we've gone through that cycle many times. We need to find a provider that understands that our IT needs are for our convenience.
Right. I have one other comment. It seems to be a lot of ESC roles. Additionally, focused on that. We don't have many people, so there's probably too many email addresses.
I do want to nail that down because I believe it's somewhat mandated / legislated that those roles, they may be the same people, but there needs to be. That's from what I can make out. I don't know. It's a provincially mandated.
We have to tailor that. If we see an emergency, someone needs to go look at 3 different email addresses in case he needs to know. Number one observation, and the elections officer is not one of them. We should correct that.
I'll remember that.
All right, Carl, anything further? No? Okay, motion to receive the report. Second, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, carried. Okay, 10A3 stop signs at Lions Bay 3 at grade railway crossings. The recommendation of the council authorized mayor and public works manager to execute the CM agreements.
Okay, so there's 2 parts to this. The first was the council 2 weeks ago asked me to find out what it was that CM had in mind. It's now in this report. They essentially want to put the second set of signs not up the road as I feared, but on the same pole, simply pointing at the exit to the parking lot.
Signs or lights?
Lights. Did I say signs?
You said signs. Yeah,
Lights.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Is that, are they dinging lights as well, or
No,
just light?
flashing red lights.
Yeah.
And this one,
On the same pole.
Yeah.
Pointing at 90 degrees to the other.
This was the guys. This was the CM guys hand sketch that you can see there.
so this is for people who are turning out of the parking lot, heading west across the tracks.
Correct.
And we need a separate set of lights for them.
Correct.
It costs 23 grand.
Correct.
And
Do we consider some Jersey barriers and no left turn for 20 bucks?
yes,
No, we have not considered that.
we should
We
consider
throw
that.
that out.
Okay, Broadway.
Carl, I didn't see on the table the part about removing the stop sign. Is it still on the table? To
No,
remove?
it's in there. It's all part of executing the 3, specifically in the Lions Bay Avenue one. It's the recommendations that we talked for. So I see that I hear in the amendments to the agenda that council would like to continue to punt on that one, which is fine. But we do need to sign the CN agreement so they can proceed with these lights, which is, I was concerned that it would impact the stop sign situation, but it in fact doesn't, but it needs to.
You know what, Jake, could you do something like put a barrier there and have a no left-hand
It would have to be a pretty fancy barrier because people would try to get around it.
Why couldn't we just have a no left turn?
No post.
We could, because very few people are exiting that parking lot and wanting to turn left.
No, they already know with it.
So a $400 sign instead of $20,000.
No one's exiting their parking lot and going to the beach, they're all going home.
I'm going to put my CN up.
Yes, we know what it says.
They may go down to pick up, some people park, they'll seem to park right at that beach.
In parking lot?
They
go down to pick up their
send the.
bag.
Get the car,
Is it worth pursuing that possibility?
No.
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 Okay. So in terms of getting that piece moving forward, it seems like we need to move forward with that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they will get the Transport Canada grant, in which case we're on hook for 23.
11, half of it.
What
If they get it.
23 if we don't, if you said if they
Yeah, 56 if it's.
Is it?
That's not 56 total project.
No, our original.
Yeah, no, the 56 for the total project, they pay half, we pay half, and then if it's 50% grant funded, we pay half of that.
Wait, you had 23 and a half and 11 and 11.8.
Yeah. So that's where I'm hoping somewhere between those two.
So we're on hook between 11 and 23. Okay. So in terms of the safety, this whole issue about driving out of the parking lot, again, has nothing to do with people, pedestrians or whatever, so that's fine. So, and it's not worth saying it's not worth pursuing no left turns and so on. So the lights, that's one option. Seems to me that some of the stop sign recommendations in terms of adding stop signs were in fact added safety. Right, the removal of the stop signs coming down the hill is, I don't.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So is it worth pursuing that part of it and leaving the stop signs coming down the hill subject to?
As well as I do what the order is, there are options. The first is to put a stop sign as a two-way stop to the exit of the parking lot. CN believes that Transport Canada would object to that as well, as being too close and hence still confusing. The other option is to do a custom designed railway crossing sign. I was speaking to Mayor Pollock about this one. So the standard sign shows a railway with a line going through it. We could design a custom one that shows that below the railway line on the other side is a T-junction with one arm of the T.
So if someone coming down the hill would need to stop and read the sign.
They wouldn't stop there.
They would
may
have to
slow down
stop.
somewhat. Yeah, it'd be, I'm afraid the reality is Transport Canada doesn't want the stop sign on their. It's not their jurisdiction.
Okay, I'm not finished yet. So.
Yeah. So I mean, if council wants to defer that, I don't know what the deadline is. I never heard tell of a deadline, but I do know that it's been on for 2.5 years.
Yeah. I read somewhere 2024. For full implementation of these things. That I can't remember.
Yes, that's actually, now that you mentioned it, that rings a bell. Okay. So the point being that we have time.
So we have time.
Okay. The CN agreement, we do need to sign. They expected funny enough, when they send the thing, they expect it to be returned by return mail.
All right, let's have a motion on the CN.
Motion on that, and then and defer the other piece and continue to defer.
So we have someone no left turn is not a flyer.
That's going to be problematic. People are going to be, they're going to be going left anyway, because they are going down to the beach entrance to take people out. Or they're going to be trying to pull a U-turn off the corner of Seaview. I see it being messier than.
I would say leave well enough alone.
All right, motion to sign the CN agreement.
Regarding the lights.
So moved. Okay, second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
so Ken, leave it on your desk so if you can sign it and then I'll come and pick it up and sign it.
Okay.
Get back to
And can we get some idea here? I mean, I would prefer to just get the whole thing done now, but Michael, you're going to be hearing something back and then we'll bring it to the next meeting?
Perhaps the next meeting. I can't.
Okay.
I can't.
Yeah, I just don't want this to die in 2 minutes. Maybe we got to get this done.
Okay,
No,
next item.
okay.
Next item is the committee's climate action. And the recommendation that the council approve staff time to file the required report by July 31st, 2023. And the council approves staff to work with members of the climate action committee to help get relevant supporting information and that staff submit the required report on time in order to meet the funding requirements. We have a motion.
I'll put it forward.
Second
Discussion.
Did you want to go in this?
You will. Yeah.
Because your name on this.
Well.
All right,
A little bit more background.
Councilor Ryder first, Councilor Abbott second.
Yeah, I'll defer to Neville. He's got more background than this.
Okay, Joe, did you have time to look into this?
Oh, like I had a request to forward an email about how to fill that or start the application process. So that was forwarded out to Norm. I haven't heard anything back. Is there anything that's required on our end to help?
Well, everything is required in law, and staff have to complete this report. Climate Action Committee is just putting out that we're going to go. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose 51 grand this year and next year. And we've done the first stage of this process, but Climate Action Committee does not have visibility on what's happened since and where we're at. But someone from staff needs to go look at these requirements, tell us what's happened. By all means, Climate Action Committee can come back and help with some wording on some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's financial and making sure that we have plans in place for replacement and stuff, like asset management plans and all this kind of stuff. They're all part of this. So I'd ask that you read the report. Note the deadline is July 31st. We actually do need to do that.
Would you suggest I coordinate with Darcy on the CAC committee? If there's any questions coming.
Sure, you can, or you can talk to me if you like. So this report's pretty thorough. It tells you exactly what you need to know. I think the CAC don't know what's happened, is what we're telling you. We don't know what's happened since. But we can help to motivate things around the things we've done that comply. They asked me to say, what have you done with your 51 grand last year? And we made certain steps. And we made certain resolutions at Open Council. Some of the stuff spoken about hadn't quite executed is all relevant. We can provide that relevant information. The first point is, where's the last report? Where's this report? I think you need to take a first stab at it and just highlight the parts you think need the Climate Action Committee to help you. We have another Climate Action Committee on Monday night.
So I will, I'm trying to get through the audit, so we reports. I will devote the time over the next day or two to provide a first draft of the report and submit it to the CAC for review. And that's
good. Should Joe maybe join in at the CAC? Or
that might be more efficient. Sure.
Yeah. On Monday.
Is there anything the CAC can do? I know Norm said he was willing to roll up his sleeves and
I think
is there anything that he could do to help out the staff on?
Yeah, so the CAC will write the sections that are the motivations of what we've done and all this stuff. We'll write that section. Joe needs to just grab the report, get Pam's last report. We didn't even know. We thought maybe it didn't need to switch it. We don't actually know. Find out where we at, status it. You don't have to write any language around climate actions we take. We can help you with that. We could go to last year's resolutions and paste those in.
Yeah.
We had those in a meeting a few months ago. Just paste those in. In fact, we declared an emergency. All the other stuff we've done. Renewable diesel, the thing, all of this stuff. And we can help flesh that part out. Okay. We just answer the basic, stuff that the normal kind of logistical items that you need to do. I think there's some financial questions.
That's pretty easy to answer. And then I can look at GSC minutes, minutes for the document. Just to get general back. But that's great. I'll provide that in advance of your meeting on Monday, and I'm happy to be there on Monday.
And if you want to give normal call, you should.
Okay. We have a motion for that. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, carried. Okay. Next item is we've got nothing on the resolution bylaws correspondence. We'll move right to Councillor Ryder.
Okay. First of all, apologies to all residents. I'm way behind on responses. I promised to get that done. This will be another package. In the general correspondence, I'll note that we have another follow-up on Roundup coming from outside the village, something we've seen from inside the village. Moving to resident correspondence. Try to move this along here. You know, there's some items here that require council input. R1, or pardon me, R5. Yep.
Can we get back to that Roundup question? Just so to see if I can call attention. So previously we've discussed this, not using Roundup or any other live states. I've got that wrong. And you know, I did go to make sure we weren't. When the questions come up again, so it would be good just to reinsure that we haven't fallen back into bad practice. Because I think in the past the village has used those type of products.
We have a bylaw that bans it and several other.
Rodenticide is the other big thing.
Yeah.
You make sure we haven't slipped into bad habits. So on the rodenticides, I do notice in the different style of the rat trap that I've seen out here.
They are specifically designed to not be attractive to bears because they previously ate the bait.
Yeah. We know that the bears took the rat traps and took them to various places.
Yeah.
But are we using anti-caveman pesticides in those? With the other issue with that is that it might escape. The eagles eat the mice, the eagles don't eat. Yeah. I would like to know what is the
that I don't know.
But we were using before.
Okay, R5 requires some council input here on page 59. Letter by a resident asking if council will send a letter to a previous speaker here at the gallery moment and advise that speaker whether the comments were in fact defamatory as they were publicly recorded. So I don't know how to answer this. Is this something council wants to opine on? I can't really answer this here until I've got some input from council. Page 59.
Councilor Bartlett. Yes, in the previous meeting, I provided a letter to a resident, which in fact explained the concept of opinions, definition of opinion, and also clarified defamation. And council chose to not have me share that letter. I think it would be helpful if in fact I share the letter because it does outline what an opinion is. It addresses the issue of free speech and also the fact that free speech, what I said in the letter here is that I do not believe.
Michael, if I could just stop you for a second, we had said that wouldn't be made public right now, so I'd like to just confine it to what council's reaction will be to this.
Okay, well, what I would suggest that we do is that we assist the residents by understanding what in fact defamation is, and that will probably help with misunderstandings about what is an opinion, what is and what is a defaming or various comments. So I think again, education and positive approach is the best way to go here. So what I would suggest is that it's probably that council would not respond regarding defamation because in fact no defamation has occurred. And we will be talking about defamation in close a little bit later regarding some letters that are in fact apparently do meet the criteria of being defamatory. So.
Councillor Conlon?
I was just gonna ask for Deanna's opinion on this. I mean, calling out residents by name is walking a very thin line. So I agree with Michael that we definitely need to educate residents on respectful communication and conduct, and hope that they can essentially police themselves and make a good decision about naming names when it comes to your neighbors. But I'm wondering, in another jurisdiction, Deanna, would there be any sort of, in your experience, would there be a response or a repercussion, a consequence?
Deanna or Randy, maybe you can comment about the letters. I know we've discussed this in the past.
Through the mayor to the council, so it's not really the role of council. I mean, so I think.
All right, Deanna, we've got a real echo. I'm not sure if that's that our
devices going.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay now?
a bad echo.
No, weird. Maybe
Your
I'll
devices?
take a minute, let Randy respond, and then I'll see what's going on.
Okay, Randy, maybe over to you, and Deanna, it's a terrible echo.
I think you need to be very careful with your letters, and when people start naming each other, and I think that's problematic. I've said it before. Repetitive, vexatious letters are something that most municipalities do not allow. Any letters that suggest that are potentially libelous on anybody, whether it's neighbor to neighbor or with the village, should not go forward. Individual members of council are more than welcome to respond to those, but they should do so under great caution. I've always drawn a line when people attack staff and name staff. That's a line in the sand that I've always drawn, and most other municipalities do the same thing. So again, your procurement, your writing policy, writing to council policy, I think needs a good legal and administrative review. It's what's happening in the past doesn't make it okay for today.
And can I just add, Randy, this is in response to a resident that actually spoke in person.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be your suggestion moving forward when somebody's going down a slippery slope?
Well, I've always, I've always had a mayor or council members or myself as the CAO stop them and say, you know, that's probably better left outside the chamber. And if you want to talk about that outside, let's do that. But it's not for this. It's not for this venue. You should err on the side of caution with things like that. And so I would put a stop to it pretty quick.
Randy, you just mentioned that maybe perhaps we should have a review of this. Would you recommend that we have our legal advisor review the letters and this policy just to give us some feedback? Because I know we've talked about this quite a few times in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I know Deanna has got similar concerns and she's got a lot of experience in this area. And I think you should take her advice and then bounce it off of Lidstone and see where you fall. And then you can start recrafting your policies. Some of these policies are outdated. They're not in keeping with current case law and problems around liability. So I think you probably should take a very good look at them and make sure that you're satisfied that free speech is not being hurt. But at the same time, you're not opening yourself up or other people up to attacks that are unnecessary and potentially legally problematic.
So, Randy, at present, I understand Deanna and you are going through the council package and providing some guidance as to what letters need to be moved into a closed or redacted. So that's ongoing. The question here is, as Jamie pointed out, that this was a spoken defamation, if it was that. So that's the allegation. And the question before me and before us right now is, how does council respond to the request by the resident that we issue a statement that these kind of comments will, from this moment forward, not be tolerated?
I think
council chamber has opened.
I think, yeah, just just that. I mean, and then perhaps bounce it off of Deanna and me in your response. And if we feel that, well, maybe this requires a higher level of legality, we can do that. But I think I think you have to be strong on these things. If people are coming out and attacking other people and naming names, you need to take that into consideration and take a leadership role with it. So I would respond. Let us have a look at what you've written, or who's ever going to write it, and then if Deanna and I feel that, well, maybe this needs a higher order, we can recommend that to you. But I wouldn't let it go. I would try to address it in as constructive a way as possible.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Anyone want to make a motion that we have Lidstone review our policy? Because we've revisited this many times.
No, not many right now. We've got way too much other stuff. We've got Deanna and Randy commenting.
Maybe let's look at that during a strategy session.
Yeah.
Because the suggestion is that we make this statement, education. Let's try that first before we spend any money.
Yeah. Okay. Second piece is R6 on page 60. This is from Doug Pollock. It's to the stop signs and the railway crossing. I think what was discussed tonight hopefully will answer those questions. R7 on page 62 goes to a question that keeps coming before us that we keep dropping the ball on. Parking, hikers, fire dangers, water supply. What are we doing about it? And a request that we take an action to decrease, to close trail access essentially, and put these concerns that we have about water, the integrity of our watershed, and fires coming down on us at the forefront. Anybody have any input into that?
I think we should, pursue the parking committee, and also the working with the Ministry of Forests and the Ministry of the Environment in turn going forward.
And I would say that in the case of someone parking in front of a fire hydrant, I know what would happen to you in any municipality in Metro Vancouver. You would get towed.
We were to implement
and we need to continue to do so and send a message, because the comment here that we'll just pay the ticket is not gonna, that doesn't apply. So,
or not pay it if you have out of jurisdiction plates, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you live up there, those comments are pretty common.
Yeah.
Are we splitting between the five of us? It's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how do we get that done? Why are we not towing?
We do so.
We are.
Well, we're only towing fire lanes and hydrants.
Yeah.
So we are towing.
Fire lanes and hydrants.
Okay.
So if I could maybe Chair, I can bring a report on every one of these issues. We are addressing them. Sometimes it's a matter of practicality. The sign shop is backed up, type of, minor reasons. Every one of these has an answer that we are looking at, independent of future committees and so on. And I'm conscious that council probably is not aware of that. So maybe if I can bring a report to very next council meeting, which I recognize is the one before the break. But these are all administrative issues. The policy has been set. We have a parking plan. It just needs to be implemented. And it's a pragmatic issue of signage. So
we will promise a report from the SGA, which will bring new information. We will go to the parking committee. But yeah, we haven't seen it.
I can produce that.
Okay. And then I think the bigger discussion, as I said, the subject been closed on whether we can do closing trails. Yeah. And that's a discussion. I believe we've done it forward. It's one on the original agenda we added. Obviously, we'll do that.
Okay, R8, page 64, potholes on Bayview. I presume that will be addressed by the paving project. R9, not sure what to make of that. I'm guessing that's page 65. Somebody alerting us to a bunch of debris. I presume that's a bylaw issue.
Well, that's not private property. It wasn't Public Works who cut those down. That's.
Oh, somebody helped themselves.
Yeah. We can hold them away. I actually like wood on the ground because it blocks quicker. You know, we can't hold away every branch.
Yeah.
Out of the forest. So I mean, you know, forestry's recommendation is to buck everything up that we can find so it sits on the ground and blocks quicker.
That'd be one way of addressing it, chipping it, bucking it up.
Chipping's also valid. Yeah.
And find out who cut them.
Yeah, well, that's.
Okay.
Be careful on the chipping. We have had a case before, someone chipped and just put it on a really big pile. And it's compost and self-combust.
Yeah.
And the chips fall out.
No,
So be careful what you do, you might be making a fire.
no, you have to spread it. You have to spread it very thin.
Yeah. Okay.
Street.
A kudo to you, Carl, on page 66 for the updates on the water supply. Yep.
He doesn't like spreadsheets.
No, the question too wide.
Okay, hey, number R11, page 67 from Doug Miller. As to a sign that had been displayed, then removed, and a comment that I'm not sure how to address because it seems to fall in your ballpark, Michael. I don't know.
Would you like me to respond to this one?
The response?
I don't know if it needs a response. I mean, the observation is that you may have somehow inappropriately directed staff or bylaw to do something.
Now we're blaming Councillor Broughton, are we, Councillor Reuter?
No, I'm asking a question here.
He's asking, I'm asking a question. I appreciate the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's the inference, I'm not sure. But no, I did not contact the office. I did call the office on another matter and was told that bylaw they were already aware of the sign, which actually qualified as graffiti under a good neighbor bylaw, and that the bylaw officer had been asked to go up and discuss it. I was not particularly, my feelings were not particularly injured, but I did find it inappropriate for the sign to be on the property. And what concerned me was that I had spent the previous day, Sunday, at the high school honoring Lions-based students with scholarships and representing the village with the Curly by presenting the Curly Stewart scholarships, and to have a council event diminished and on a sign on a property and have the students who in fact received the scholarships drive past them. I thought was pretty crummy, actually. I thought.
Are you suggesting though that, just to be clear, that this is a violation of a good neighbor policy?
Yes.
And that it was graffiti?
Yes.
Okay, but you'll have to forward that to me. I wouldn't have thought so, but
okay. It's bylaw 416, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I think it was problematic to me in terms of the impact on the students. I was also disappointed because, as I said in the last meeting, I composed and sent along a letter, I believe on the Tuesday of that week, to Ms. Rogers, and which I felt was very respectful and very clear. And council has chosen for not to publish it, but it explains carefully what opinions are, what defamation is, my definition or very clear definition of free speech. And I still would actually ask council that I present that in the minutes.
I think we've asked and answered that. So
what happened? Okay, so speaking to this particular motion, so I was surprised.
Michael, sorry, this is not the time to bring for the third time that motion. I guess.
Okay.
No, I mean we've discussed this.
I'm speaking to actually at this point. I'm speaking to R12.
R12.
Yeah, and
which is the annual report.
No,
the Douglas Miller
R12
remarks regarding the sign.
Okay, I was asked to respond to that. And so I just said that on the day that I had composed and presented this letter, the next call I received was regarding graffiti, which was not particularly complimentary. So anyway,
okay, so I'll answer this as best as I can. So moving on.
Or the option that I gave was you were struggling with it, so I said that I would be prepared to answer it.
Yeah, I think we'll just say that it's been noted and discussed at the council table, and we will do that. Yeah. The last letter is on page 68, and it points to the delay that we have in our annual report, the steps that haven't been taken, including public consultation. And that there has been no communication about the missed deadline. I am actually curious how we're going to, I mean, clearly we're late, but how are we going to satisfy the requirements that are observed here from this resident?
I think it's two-part. Randy, maybe you can comment on the annual report being late, and then we'll go to Joe.
Yeah, I think Joe's working on trying to through to council members through the mayor. I know that Joe is working on trying to get some clarification on the minutes of a meeting that need to be approved with the auditors. So we're working on that side of it. Know that the annual report is pretty close to being put together, but there's a few things that need to be put into place before we do that. It is late. That is not necessarily fatal. It's not a target. It's a hard date, but lots of municipalities do miss this date, but it's not the best thing in the world. It does have to go through public process. So I think in the next 2 weeks, it really needs to get resolved so that we can get it in front of council and in front of the public so that it can get approved as soon as possible. And I think I know that the staff are working on that right now.
What would getting it in front of the public look like, Randy?
Publishing it, right?
I think that Deanna, do you want to take a whack at that? You've been more involved recently on that.
Is my sound better now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you just need to make it publicly available. So that's typically just posting it on the website or making a copy of it available in your offices.
Good. Thank you.
And Deanna, just to be clear, is that correct that it needs to be publicly available, I think, for a given period of time?
14 days before council considers it at a meeting.
Okay. So we're going to be essentially either calling a special meeting or doing this in September? That's the way it looks.
Special meeting might have to be. What happens if we reach out for September?
Joe, how far along are you?
The annual report's been at least been distributed to council for any comment. I've had input from participating parties in there. I think if there's anything as far I could make comments on one of a couple of pages. But everything else has been updated, so that's unless there's any commentary from council or committee members, that's is ready to go. We can't file it without the audit report and our SOP. The audit has been substantially complete for 2.5 weeks. I've got called our auditors today. They're really just waiting for, they're happy with draft minutes for the meeting minutes.
Okay.
They are concerned about having full access, which is not an uncommon request in an audit, to all closed meeting minutes. So there is going to be a little bit of delay. I'm hoping that we can basically get it to the finish line by the end of this week, early next week. That they have escalated this to their national office for a consultation just because of didn't have access. So they're asking for that. So once I provided the draft minutes, they're okay with that as long as there aren't any substantial changes or material changes to the minutes. Some words here and there, it's not a big deal. Yeah, so once I get that go ahead, they've had the statements for over a month now. There's a couple of things that item for disclosure that they'd like to include. not gonna go into that right now, but it's like I guess identified quantity and it's not really owners cost. So we're basically there.
So the 14-day time clock starts. What's your best guess?
Well, I mean, if you want to present the for public discussion, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, yeah. If council is okay with the annual report in its current form, or there's comments that we can.
No, not in its current form.
Okay, so as soon as it's been updated to reflect your comments, can we publish that for public review? Just knowing that the audit is probably going to follow that. The audit is going to be basically, if it's done, get a letter. There's no requirement that I understand that needs to be open for public review for 14 days. For
You're saying what doesn't need to be open for 14 days for review?
The audited financial statements. I mean, we need to file those, but I believe it's just the annual report that needs to be available for public review prior to adoption.
But that's part of the annual report.
Yeah, we can't file it without that.
Sure. So, I mean, the public would have a reasonable expectation of having that in there and complete. So, before we publish it, and certainly before we publish it, I think we would want to take a look at it at council to see if it's what we want to put out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if Deanna, if she can maybe help me. So Deanna, in the earlier closed meeting, I quoted the community charter section, whatever it was, G. L, sorry, it says, yeah, discussions on annual reports, they're going to close and describe the criteria. There's certainly at least one aspect of this report that I think should be closed based on, and that's why that clause exists. So I'm not sure, is it appropriate we just go into close and discuss the whole report? We can then have the next discussion in open. I'm thinking might be easier, or do we somehow try to pick our way through the report now and discuss what part should be in open? I think it might be a little messy.
Yeah, we should probably move it to close and have that discussion there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay, that's it for correspondence. Thank you.
Okay, new business. No items there. Public questions. Anyone in the gallery like to speak? No. Okay, we'll move to the online gallery. Please put your hand up if you'd like to speak. Okay, clock's ticking. Gone. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move back into the closed session. Do I have a motion to close the open portion of the meeting? Second. All in favor? Opposed? Yes. Carried. Okay, thank you very much for the gallery.
Okay.